You wouldn't know it now, but the shimmering blue waters of the Thea Foss were once covered in oil sheens and coal tar deposits.
In 1981, Commencement Bay joined the list of federal Superfund sites.
Once considered one of the most polluted sites in the nation, a massive cleanup took place, and the waterway recently celebrated its 10-year anniversary of clean water. The Environmental Services Department is dedicated to keeping this waterway clean, and monitoring the stormwater requires a number of moving parts.
We have 7 locations around the Foss that we monitor. For deploying for the event, we will take out fresh, clean jars, ice, new batteries if we need them, and we will set up the site with that new equipment, download whatever data has been collected since the last time we were there. Ready? We'll double check those and set those, and we'll set a pacing determined by how large the storm event is.
A minimum of 0.2 inches of rain has to fall for the team to go out for sampling. Crews are looking for contaminants that are measured by the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permits.
Obviously, any sort of contaminants, so related to the Superfund cleanup on the Foss Waterway, we want to be sure that we're not recontaminating the Foss. In all kinds of metals, mercury, PAHs, phthalates. Yeah, there's a huge list. And with the NEPTIS sampling, the list grew because everything related to the Foss is a certain set of parameters that we're looking for, but then every 5 years there's a new NEPTIS permit. So they may have you look at new things, or it's changing every 5 years, but so these are also our NEPTIS sites, so we have parameters that are specific to that permit.
After a qualifying rain event, the team will then go out and collect those jars, cap them and label them, where it's processed in the Center for Urban Water's Sample and Receiving Lab, and then hand it off for further study.
When we first receive a sample, first thing we like to do is check to make sure that all of the paperwork is in order. And our sample custodian will double check, make sure everything is labeled properly, the samples are preserved, they're in the right container. And when everything is in order at that point, the samples then get distributed to various areas in the laboratory for processing. It's a big storm event. We have a lot of samples. The process can take a little while to check in all the different containers. We could get 50, 60, 70 different containers for an event.
Some samples are straightforward and some are more complicated. Depending on the analysis, the sample can go through many different processes.
Well, we're looking for a variety of chemicals. Some of them are indicators, broad indicators of water quality. We're looking for a short list of metals: mercury, lead, cadmium, zinc, copper, metals that have been shown to be a concern in the waterway. So a lot of it's with regard to the stormwater, what typically we might find in stormwater. You might find some motor oil, you might find some diesel, benzene associated with gasoline, and various metals, from some wear metals from automobiles, etc. They're typically found in stormwater runoff, and those are the constituents of primary concern that we're looking for.
When these results are compiled, they look for a number of things, including trends in contaminants, and if best management practices, such as sweet sweepers, are being effective. A report is then created from these findings.
When we get the final report from the lab, we're looking at it to make sure that we're managing our stormwater system effectively and that we don't have any problems that we need to follow up on. The data that we collect is also submitted to the regulatory agencies, both the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Ecology, to meet our regulatory reporting requirements.
When something is found that shouldn't be there, the inspectors in the environmental compliance section will investigate further.
We look at the data to first find whether or not we have like an immediate problem. Like, for example, recently we had some high solids in the line that we needed to send an inspector out to follow up on. Then we also look at it to look at kind of more longer term problems. So we look at not only just the last few points of data, but also in the case of the Foss Waterway, we're looking at it for 16 years. We're looking at the trends for what the data is showing us, where we might need to follow up and where things are looking good. Make sure, again, we're managing our stormwater system effectively.
Okay, you good?
Sometimes it's an immediate issue, like a construction site that isn't properly managing their stormwater, or someone who's washing something and the bubbles are coming down the line. Other times it may be a longer term issue, and we have inspectors that go out and find where those contaminants are coming from and help that property owner resolve the issue.
Residents can do their part too. Remember, only rain goes down the drain.